Russian President Vladimir Putin has changed Russia's nuclear doctrine, a move that has sent shockwaves through the international community. This change has made the world a more dangerous place, as it significantly alters the balance of power and the rules of engagement in global conflicts. It raises serious concerns about the potential for nuclear conflict, with many experts warning that the risk of a nuclear exchange has never been higher since the Cold War. The new doctrine lowers the threshold for using nuclear weapons, making it more likely that they could be deployed in a wider range of scenarios. This means Russia might use them even if it is not directly attacked with nuclear weapons, potentially in response to conventional military threats or even cyber attacks. The change comes as tensions between Russia and the West are extremely high, with diplomatic relations at a historic low. The war in Ukraine has fueled this tension, as the conflict has drawn in numerous international actors and escalated regional instability. The United States and its allies have provided Ukraine with significant military aid, including advanced weaponry and intelligence support, which has been crucial in Ukraine's defense efforts. Russia sees this as a direct threat to its national security and sovereignty, interpreting the Western support for Ukraine as a proxy war against Russia itself. Putin's nuclear doctrine change is a way to deter further Western involvement, signaling that any escalation could have catastrophic consequences. The specter of nuclear war, once thought to be a relic of the past, now looms large over the present, reminding the world of the devastating power of these weapons. International efforts to de-escalate the situation are ongoing, with diplomats working tirelessly to find a peaceful resolution and prevent a nuclear catastrophe. Around the world, citizens and activists are calling for disarmament and a return to diplomacy, emphasizing the need for dialogue over destruction. The memories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of nuclear warfare, a cost that the world cannot afford to pay again. The international community must come together to strengthen arms control agreements and work towards a future free of nuclear threats. Only through cooperation and mutual understanding can we hope to achieve lasting peace and security for all nations. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but with determination and a commitment to peace, a safer world is within our reach. The war in Ukraine is central to understanding Putin's decision. The conflict has not only devastated the region but has also drawn in international powers, making it a focal point of global tension. The ongoing battles, the destruction of cities and the displacement of millions have created a humanitarian crisis that echoes far beyond Ukraine's borders. This war is not just a local issue, it is a flashpoint that has the potential to reshape international relations and security dynamics for years to come. Russia views Western support for Ukraine as an existential threat. The expansion of NATO and the increasing military presence near its borders have heightened Moscow's sense of encirclement. Russian officials argue that the West's actions are not merely supportive but aggressive, aimed at undermining Russia's sovereignty and influence. This perception has fueled a narrative of resistance and defiance within Russia, where the government portrays itself as standing up against Western hegemony. The provision of advanced weapons systems, intelligence sharing, and financial aid has bolstered Ukraine's defense. These measures have enabled Ukraine to resist Russian advances more effectively, prolonging the conflict and increasing its intensity. The influx of Western support has transformed Ukraine's military capabilities, making it a more formidable opponent. However, this support comes with its own set of challenges, including the risk of escalation and the potential for a broader conflict involving more nations. However, it has also angered Russia. The Kremlin views these actions as direct provocations, leading to a surge in nationalist sentiment and anti-Western rhetoric. Protests against Western intervention have become more frequent, and the Russian government has ramped up its military preparations in response. This heightened state of alert has increased the likelihood of miscalculations and unintended confrontations, further destabilizing the region. Putin sees the West's involvement as a form of escalation. In his speeches, he often emphasizes the threat posed by NATO's proximity and the West's military activities. This narrative is used to justify Russia's own military buildup and aggressive posturing. The tension between Russia and the West is not just a political or military standoff, it is a clash of ideologies and visions for the future of Europe and the world. He has repeatedly warned against crossing Russia's red lines. These red lines are often vaguely defined, adding to the uncertainty and unpredictability of the situation. Putin's warnings are meant to deter Western actions, but they also serve to rally domestic support and project an image of strength. The ambiguity surrounding these red lines makes it difficult for the West to gauge the limits of Russian tolerance, increasing the risk of inadvertent escalation. The change in nuclear doctrine is a way to reinforce these warnings. By altering its nuclear policy, Russia aims to signal its readiness to escalate to the highest levels of conflict if necessary. This shift is intended to serve as a deterrent, making it clear that any significant threat to Russian interests could trigger a nuclear response. Military analysts debate the implications of this doctrine, but the message from Moscow is unmistakable. Russia is prepared to defend itself by any means necessary. It signals that Russia is willing to use all means necessary to protect its interests. This stance is not just about military might, it is also about political will and strategic resolve. The Kremlin's actions and rhetoric are designed to convey a sense of inevitability and determination. For Russia, the stakes are existential, and the lengths to which it will go to safeguard its sovereignty and influence are boundless. This unwavering commitment to its national interests makes the situation in Ukraine a critical and dangerous flashpoint in global geopolitics. Russia possesses a vast and sophisticated nuclear arsenal. It is a legacy of the Cold War arms race. At the heart of this arsenal are intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. These missiles can travel thousands of miles. They can strike targets across the globe. Russia also has a fleet of submarines capable of launching nuclear missiles. These submarines are difficult to detect. They provide Russia with a secure second strike capability. This means that even if Russia is attacked, it can retaliate with nuclear weapons. The United States also possesses a formidable nuclear arsenal. Like Russia, it relies on a triad of delivery systems. This includes intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and strategic bombers. The United States has thousands of nuclear warheads. The U.S. nuclear arsenal is designed to deter attacks. It is also intended to ensure the security of the United States and its allies. The U.S. government regularly reviews its nuclear posture to ensure it remains effective. Section 5. A race against time. The deployment of nuclear weapons is a complex and dangerous game. It involves a multitude of steps, each fraught with potential risks and catastrophic consequences. From the moment a decision is made to deploy, a series of highly coordinated actions must take place, involving numerous personnel and sophisticated technology. The stakes are incredibly high, and the margin for error is virtually non-existent. Both Russia and the United States keep their nuclear forces on high alert. This state of readiness means that their nuclear arsenals are prepared to be launched at a moment's notice. Soldiers and officers in command centers are constantly monitoring radar screens and communication channels, ready to respond to any perceived threat. The tension in these rooms is palpable, as the fate of millions could hinge on their actions. This means that missiles can be launched within minutes of an order. The launch sequence is a highly automated process designed to ensure that once a decision is made, there is no delay. Countdown clocks tick away the seconds, and within moments, missiles are hurtling towards their targets. The speed and efficiency of this process are both impressive and terrifying. This creates a situation where decisions must be made very quickly. Military generals and strategists are often faced with the daunting task of making life-and-death decisions under extreme pressure. They must weigh the available information, consider the potential consequences, and act swiftly. The room is filled with the hum of urgent discussions and the clatter of keyboards as every second counts. The flight time of an ICBM from Russia to the United States is approximately 30 minutes. This short window of time adds an additional layer of urgency to the decision-making process. Leaders must quickly interpret the data, confirm the authenticity of the threat, and decide on the appropriate response. The clock is always ticking and the pressure is immense. This leaves very little time for leaders to confirm an attack, assess the situation, and decide on a response. In these high-stakes moments, world leaders are often in constant communication, making urgent phone calls and holding emergency meetings. They must navigate the complexities of international diplomacy, all while under the shadow of potential nuclear catastrophe. The risk of miscalculation or error is significant. Even a small mistake in judgment or a technical glitch could lead to unintended escalation and devastating consequences. Military drills are conducted regularly to prepare for such scenarios, but the tension and potential for error remain ever present. The world watches with bated breath, hoping that cooler heads will prevail and that the unthinkable can be avoided. Section 6. Echoes of the Cold War. The current situation has disturbing echoes of the Cold War. During that era, the United States and the Soviet Union possessed massive nuclear arsenals. The threat of nuclear war loomed large. However, there were also important differences. The Cold War was characterized by arms control agreements. These agreements helped to limit the number of nuclear weapons. They also established communication channels between the superpowers. Today, many of these agreements have been abandoned. Communication is strained. Section 7. The Perils of Unpredictability. Putin's nuclear doctrine change injects a dangerous level of unpredictability into the world. It raises the risk of miscalculation or accident. The lack of clear communication channels exacerbates this risk. The world is now a more dangerous place. The lowered threshold for nuclear use is particularly worrisome. It increases the likelihood that a conventional conflict could escalate into a nuclear war. This is a nightmare scenario with potentially catastrophic consequences. Section 8. A World on Edge. The international community is watching these developments with deep concern. The United Nations has called for restraint. World leaders are urging dialogue to reduce tensions. The stakes are incredibly high. The risk of nuclear war is greater today than it has been in decades. The consequences of such a war would be devastating. It is essential that all sides work to prevent this from happening. Section 9. The Urgency of Diplomacy. The only way to avert disaster is through diplomacy. The United States and Russia must engage in direct and substantive talks. They need to find ways to reduce tensions and rebuild trust. This will not be easy. The international community has a vital role to play. Countries must use their influence to encourage dialogue and de-escalation. The future of humanity may depend on it.